Hi, welcome to Happier Ladies. We're sisters who discuss all things related to work, family, and personal growth.
We draw inspiration from everywhere, especially from you, our listeners, to keep moving forward with joy and laughter and the big adventure that is life.
1 week at a time.
I'm Azizi Williams. I live and work in the LA area. I'm a mom of 2 adult children, and I'm an education professional in the independent school world. I'm here with my sister, Malika Amandi.
That's me. I'm a SoCal native living in Western Massachusetts, a mom of 2 littles, and I work in higher ed.
In this episode, we dig into the festival of feedback.
But first, Azizi, I have a style update.
Okay.
For a couple years now, I've talked about wanting a capsule wardrobe, and I feel like I finally have one for the summer. It kind of has come about haphazardly, but I think all of our conversations about style and our fashion show watching, I think they're starting to sink in.
Wow.
And so
Okay.
somehow Pinterest has played a big role in it, like pinning outfits that I like. I think I've started to collect pieces. And anyway, I noticed that I'm wearing the same handful of items in different combinations. And this is like summer.
So you're just rounding that up to a capsule wardrobe. Like you
Yes.
notice that you just keep wearing the same things, and it is summer. So that is your summer capsule wardrobe.
Well, and that I'm like mixing and matching them,
Okay.
and it feels like whatever the combination is, it feels put together and like,
Right.
yes.
So it takes the decision fatigue out of it. Like you're not having to search through your whole closet. You already know the things you're going to be wearing.
Yeah, there's like 3 pairs of pants, there's a couple dresses, and then light sweater, like a jean button up.
Okay. Cardigan?
It's short sleeve. I wore it the other day. I wear it almost every other day or so, every few days. So
Okay.
if you haven't seen it yet, just stick around. But it's solid. It's like navy, jean, this kind of rust color, and then some little pops of red and like
Nice.
black. I feel good about it.
Well, that's what's most important. Now, the thing is, when the next season comes, is changing it, right?
Right.
So,
Yes.
like, this is great for summer. I just my relationship with clothes is I see something I like and I buy it. It's just a piece, like piece by
Mhm.
piece. So I'm not at the capsule phase yet. I that's still something I want to try, but for now, it's just I have all of these random pieces and I love them all and I want to try to wear them all. So, but that's what's working for me. I love this for you because I know you've been in a rut and you've been, going through so many changes. So,
Thank you.
and we're together. Should we say that?
Oh, yes. We can say that. I can hear you coming from the next room.
I ain't you. I am back with Malika and having a little summer fun. So, yeah, there's that too.
Now it's time for the Festival of, where we go into great detail about a particular subject. And today, the festival is about feedback. So, when we talk about feedback, what do we mean, Azizi? Let's just put a definition out there.
I mean, I don't have a technical definition, but I think when I think about feedback, I'm thinking about getting information from a different source, not from you, but information from outside of you that something it is not working or needs to change or needs to grow in some way. And there could be positive feedback and negative feedback, but I think when you hear feedback, mostly you think of the critical feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what comes to mind. What about you? Would you add something to that definition?
Yeah, I think it could come from a person directly or from an instrument like a survey or a
Mhm.
comment. It can be verbal or written. I think for our conversation, I feel like we're going to talk mostly about feedback in a professional context,
Mhm.
but it could also be from a loved one, or literally anybody could tell you something that they want you to do differently.
Yeah, the person you pass by on the street might have some feedback for you, but you're gonna take that in different than someone who you spend
Yes.
a lot of time with and, care about their opinion. So, yes, there are differences.
I think sometimes in our marriage, Norm and I, we have like a feedback kudos and kugros, we call them,
Oh
like,
boy.
that we talk about in our periodically, but it's helpful to have even in that's a personal context, but we have like a mechanism for giving feedback that is obviously it comes about at any point, but it is nice to have a container sometimes. I
Yes.
digress.
Okay. I was gonna say, I don't
Um,
Grayson and I don't have kudos or kugros, but yeah, we are gentle with each other with our feedback, but yeah, it can absolutely can be personal. You could have feedback for your kids, certainly. Your kids
mm,
can have feedback for you when you get older. Look forward to that. Or even now, they
for
might give you
now.
feedback. Maybe not even when you're older, but yes, mostly we're going to stick to professional contexts.
So, Azizi, where are you in your feedback journey?
Well, it's top of mind because I've just wrapped up feedback season. I may have talked about this before. There's so much seasonality to working in education, and I love it, and it provides some amount of predictability. And at the end of the school year, or towards the end of the school year, is when you start to solicit feedback from the different constituents, and teachers go through it, administrators go through it, students go through it. We're all sort of hearing reflections and hearing feedback about myself, about the school, about each other. And so this time around, I added what's called a 360, which is it's a type of it's a process that involves speaking with multiple constituents to find out about your leadership. So I had to provide surveys to a group of peers, some parents, board members, direct reports, teachers, and there were also interviews, and all of that feedback is collected anonymously to me, and then I'm given a report. So that was a new process for me and was quite intense and really caused me to reflect on feedback. That's
Mhm.
my journey. So I'm sort of on the other side of that journey now, and yeah, I have thoughts and feelings about it. What about you, Malika? Where are you at with your feedback journey?
When I was in my kind of coaching season, I was basically coaching is giving feedback in
Yeah.
so many words. I still do that in my current role as an advisor. So I guess I think a lot about how I'm communicating to people when they ask for help, or I'm tasked with helping them with something. How do you communicate that? And often it's about writing or a resume or something very kind of concrete.
Mm,
Sometimes it's about a process. Like I'm having trouble in this project I'm doing of trying to find an internship or something and give me
mm,
feedback. What am I doing wrong?
yeah.
I think particularly when I was doing coaching, often I would help clients interpret feedback. So, kind of like
Mm,
what you're saying, they had a 360 review and they need help understanding this and working through it. I would also help them think about how they were going to give feedback. That sometimes was a sticky area that people wanted to work on. And so that coaching container was a way for them to work on how they give feedback.
mm,
Because it's so much of it is about communication and using your voice and how you convey the information that you have.
mhm,
So I feel like I'm pretty comfortable talking about it as a framework
mm,
and whether it's giving or receiving. And then I think I'm always in my own personal journey of, when I get I get feedback from time to time. Not I
mhm,
think in the way that you do.
mm,
Um Probably the hardest feedback context for me now is like the parenting, you know,
mm,
and with my partner and that, that's where my performance is being assessed in the most
Mhm.
kind of personal way that is, yeah, it just feels personal, I guess, is the main thing.
And it is personal.
Yeah.
Like, that's the hardest feedback when it feels personal, and parenting is public also, and that is
Mhm.
so hard. That's really hard. So, yes, I get it. I get it, Malika. So, what is a memorable piece of feedback that you've received?
So, this was actually interaction that you and I had
Mhm.
several years ago. I was living when I was in LA. You had a kind of professional affinity group that you were leading, and I think I spoke for the group once and I participated a couple other times. And so this is one time I was participating in this community of women, and there was a process that you lead called council, where it's very story driven. So there was a prompt, and kind of everybody in the circle gets an opportunity to respond to the story. And there aren't like time limits or anything. You kind of feel it out how long you share. And I had a great time in this council. I thought it was really, really fun and connected. And I told a fabulous story. And later, I think it was maybe the next day, you kind of asked if you could give me some feedback. And I was like, okay, what? Sure. And you, the feedback you shared with me was that in so many words, it's like I took up too much space, that I was talking for a really long time, and to be aware of letting other people kind of have the floor, knowing when it's time to give up the floor. And that there were, I guess, multiple times in this meeting that I kind of took the floor and ran with it, to mix metaphors. So I remember this piece of feedback because I was totally unaware of that. Or yeah, I didn't have the sense that I had taken up too much space. And I think my feelings were hurt because I felt like blindsided, and I also felt embarrassed. I felt like, "No, you're just my sister, and so that's what you think about me." But yeah, it was hard. Like, it was it sucked to feel those things, and I could think about it and recognize, like, "Oh, maybe there's some truth there." Like, I remember the story I told and how excited I was about it. Maybe it did go on too long, and that's not I couldn't contradict it. I didn't have a timer to be like, "No, I talk this." Anyway, I understood the heart of the feedback, so I had all of these things it brought up a lot for me, and yet I could understand where you were coming from leading that meeting, and I could acknowledge, like, "Okay, that's something I need to work on, and that's something I want to work on." I mentioned this to you before we started this episode, and you didn't even remember this this situation at all,
Listen,
which
I
is
am
pretty
so sorry,
typical.
Malika, that I brought you so much pain. I'm so sorry. I remember, like, the more you talk about it, I remember the event and I remember the council. And in council, also known as circle, one of the rules is to be lean because you have to think about all the other people who have to share stories. And so you're sharing sort of what needs to be shared. And and that's important. I mean, I think also I was the facilitator of the space, so I think I probably felt responsible for it in a certain way. And also, I know that you lead spaces elsewhere, and so this was you were presenting, I think, to us at this.
This was a different time that I wasn't presenting. Yeah, I was just participating.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm apologizing for cause if I caused you pain in that feedback, but I'm sure that I shared it because I wanted you to know as you go out and lead things and host things and facilitate things, about the how it might land in that
Absolutely. You don't have
situation.
to apologize as easy. My telling this story is that it was memorable because I think there was truth in it. It gave me information that helped me act differently in a way that is in more alignment with who I want to be in those kind of spaces.
Mhm.
So I think if you hadn't said that given me that feedback, I wouldn't have reflected on that evening at all. And I might just keep doing the same thing, you know? So I think it was helpful, though it was uncomfortable and, I was upset. I did take it to heart and I'm glad that you shared it. And I think that it's memorable because I think and I bring it up here because I think it demonstrates the power of feedback, right?
Mhm.
Which is that it can help us grow and be more of who we want to be. And I think, in its best situation, but it is kind of inherently just going to be uncomfortable because we're
Yeah.
going along doing our best, making our best choices. And then that goes up against what somebody else sees as our best choices or what's possible, And I think sometimes it's just it's a specific version of conflict that is kind of just always going to be a little bit prickly,
Yeah,
but I'm grateful for it ultimately.
I have learned that when you receive feedback in an area that you feel strongly about or in an area that you think you do a great job, and then when someone tells you something that is, you know, uh, opposite of that, I can't find the word, but
Yeah.
when someone gives you a different version than what you imagine, and especially when you care about it, it hurts even more. Like, that's the hardest feedback. It's different if it's something that you sort of know you're not great at or is not important to you, but when
Yeah.
it's important to you and then someone gives you feedback and you thought it went well and someone is giving you a different version of it, that is so hard. That's a hard moment, and it's some friction, and it feels a little like conflict, and that's accurate. And obviously, I think when you give feedback, I think it's also a form of caring. It's a
Mhm.
form of wanting someone to understand maybe how to best support a community or, about how to grow. And at the same time, when you're receiving feedback, you have to keep in mind that people are going to have different versions of you based on their own life experience and, their own upbringing. And so that might shape how they take in what
Mhm.
what you're offering. So that's important. You could have 5 different people tell you 5 different things about the same performance, for example,
Mhm.
because they're all receiving it with their own lens.
What is a memorable piece of feedback that you've received?
I will never forget this. So I was facilitating a discussion or sort of leading a discussion of parents who were unhappy. This was years ago. And I was sort of at the center of hearing their feedback. So it was a feedback conversation. Parents were invited to provide the feedback about a situation that wasn't going well. And it was my job to hear their feedback and sort of problem solve or to hopefully turn things around in this meeting. And it just kept getting worse. And it was just like at the end of the meeting, it's just like one of those meetings where like, oh, that was horrible. Like
Ooh.
sometimes that happens where you kind of know things didn't go well, but I didn't really know why. And I was sort of stumped. And a mentor of mine, shout out to Anne, who also was my 3rd grade teacher.
Mine
She
too.
was my 3rd grade teacher and Malika's, and I came back to the same school I used to attend and became an administrator. Anne was still there, and Anne said to me, "Azizi, that was quite a meeting. I think your problem is you need to listen." I said, "What do you mean, Anne?" Of course I was listening. I heard everything they said, and I was giving them responses, and I was, trying to think about how to help them understand my perspective or what was really going on. And she was like, "No, no, you just need to listen." And that has resonated with me. It was so powerful. And I think because I knew she knew me, like she knew
Mhm.
me and she cared for me and she had this critical piece of feedback for me. And it's something that I return to and reflect on is how to listen and how to help people understand that you are listening, which is an active process, which, it doesn't seem like it because your ears are on,
Mhm.
but it's the act of helping people feel listened to is that's delicate or a special act. So that was an important piece of feedback that she gave me.
That is gold because there's like listening and problem solving are two different things.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reflex when you hear critique to justify or solve, or I think you said explain why, and that's not always needed.
No, and it's not something you're taught.
No.
You don't no one ever teaches you how to listen or how to make sure that the person you're in conversation with feels heard. So that is yeah, it was profound and something I still think about and work on also to this day. Well, let's take a break. Feedback is hard. I feel like we're already getting intense. Malika and I have some specific tips related to feedback that we want to offer you. So we'll get into that after this break.
So, Azizi, because my word of the year is soft, I'm super excited to announce that we are partnering with Cozy Earth, and they have the softest pajamas ever.
What? Malika, you're usually a t-shirt and sweats girl, so this is quite an upgrade.
I know, I've up-leveled. Their bamboo stretch knit pajama set is amazing. It's so luxurious and comfortable, and they look great.
I've been sleeping on Cozy Earth's bamboo sheet set, and it's so soft, cool, and comfortable. They are an absolute delight. I'm done with scratchy sheets for good.
We all deserve to be surrounded by soft and beautiful items in our lives. Head to cozyearth.com and use our code HL20 for an exclusive 20% off. That's code HL20 for an exclusive 20% off. And if you see a post-purchase survey, mention that you heard about Cozy Earth on the Happier Ladies podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.
And we're back with a list of 10 feedback tips. And Malika and I are going to just alternate and share them with you. So let's just jump in. Malika, you have the first one.
So this is for when you are giving feedback. I think a lot of my tips are on the giver side. Okay.
So I'm going to read yours
Okay.
and then you're going to explain it. Okay. So the first one on your list is spend some time thinking of the person holistically.
So if you know this person, there's someone you work with or someone you supervise, before you enter into a feedback conversation, I think it's a good idea to just reflect on that relationship and what you hope for this person's growth. So you shared a great example, Azizi, of the feedback you got. It was hard, but you could take it because it was coming from someone who really knew you, and you knew that
Mm.
whatever they told you was going to be for your best interest, right? So this is kind of just take the step to make that true. Like if you are really thinking about this person's best interest, then just think about that. What is it that you hope for them and their growth, and where are they? What do you know about them? I think often feedback can come not from a place of caring about someone's best interest, but caring about the outcome or the project or the external thing. And so that when you're coming from that angle, it's very easy to feel that on the recipient side. But I think people kind of hear feedback better when they know it's coming from a place that is, uh, yeah, about their highest good, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you're able to have established rapport with a person and had conversations that weren't about critical feedback, first, that's always helpful. But in the absence of that, or if that's not the dynamic, then making sure that it's clear that you do think about the person's growth and have that in mind as you provide the feedback. I think that's a good tip.
Reflect on your relationship with perfectionism poem.
So when you receive feedback, part of the pain is people don't think that I am good enough, or people don't think that I can do this perfectly. And it's a good moment to reflect on, am I trying to, is my expectation that I am going to be perfect or that I am already perfect?
Hmm.
And that is an unhealthy goal, or that's an unhealthy perspective to have about yourself. And so it's a good moment to reflect on just perfectionism and how it shows up and how maybe it's not serving you, especially when it comes to hearing and receiving feedback. And there was this great poem that I came across actually in Simple Things magazine that I'm going to read that helped me. That helped me get through this feedback season. It's called On Perfection by Bilal Hafta. A draft only ever has to exist. And what are we but drafts of people? A continual work in progress, a culmination of the universe's infinite chances at revision and revival. You do not have to be perfect. Please don't waste your time trying to be. You only have to be here. You only have to open yourself to the gentle world waiting to catch you. And I thought that was so beautiful because it just reminds us that we are not perfect. We can't be, and we just need to be open. So it's good to be open to feedback and open to the ways that you can continue to work on your draft of yourself.
I love that. That's a really beautiful piece.
All right, Malika, your next one is connect on a human level first.
So it's hard to just go into feedback at the top of a conversation. You kind of mentioned
Hmm.
this. Sometimes we want to do that because it feels efficient and we don't want to waste people's time. We don't want to do the compliment sandwich or whatever. And it's just good to connect on a human level before you start going into critical feedback in particular. And by connect on a human level, it's like make some small talk, ask about the person's
Mm.
family, share something that's going on in your own life. It's not just
Mm.
about the humanity is also in being a little bit vulnerable yourself or sharing something about yourself or,
Mm.
so kind of getting good at being a just human talking to another human. And then you can go into being the project leader talking about the other thing or whatever the roles are. But I think that first step, if you can be a human first, it just makes everything more digestible.
I think sometimes because it's hard to give feedback, we just want to get it over with. So,
Mhm.
sometimes we might just jump into it just so it's over and you don't want it to take long. And, occasionally there might be a reason or need to do or, offer feedback in that way. But mostly, I think you can take the time to connect and it goes a long way, I think, as you said.
I think also if I've noticed if I've tried to do this human level and the person's not responsive already, that's really good information for me before
Mm.
I give the feedback. I can see their heckles are already up. They think something's coming or okay, they don't want to. Okay. It keeps me from taking things personally if the
Mm.
conversation moves forward and is not pleasant or something like that.
Mhm.
Because if they're not connecting on the human level first, that's says a lot. They might be going through something much bigger than this conversation.
Yeah, and then maybe you, have the conversation in a different way or,
Mhm.
yeah, think about how you deliver it then.
Okay. Take in the positive feedback.
Oftentimes, there's positive feedback given, and I'm sure I've said so many positive things about you, for example, Malika.
Nope, never. I've never heard a
I
positive
know I
thing.
have, and those are not the things that stick with you. We tend to overemphasize and just overthink the negative and completely dismiss any positive feedback. That's just how our brains are wired. So do what you can to really take in, celebrate, reflect on, reread all of the positive things that are shared with you. Because, when that critical feedback is given, it's good to have perspective that it's not all horrible. There's all these other things that are going well. And even if they don't offer that for you, do it for yourself. That's the self-talk handbook that I was reading talked about spotting the success. So take some time to think about even just that day, all of the things that happen successfully, even if it was just brushing your teeth and feeding yourself, like sometimes you have to dig really
Yes.
deep. But there are a lot of positive things also. And so if it's given to you formally or not, find those positive things and reflect on those as well.
I agree with that. It is so easy to just skip over the positive, but we do need it. We need to know what's going well and what we're doing well.
Yeah. Malika, your next tip is lead with curiosity.
So this is, I think, true in any kind of form of conflict. As we said, often feedback is a subgenre of conflict. But even for positive feedback, I think it is good to come from a lens of why I'm curious about this behavior. How did you get to this? Whether, again, if it's positive or negative, really kind of being interested in the process, somebody's thought process, because that can give you a lot of information, and it also can diffuse somebody feeling defensive if they get that they're being understood or that somebody wants to understand how they approached at a certain outcome. So just be curious, lead with curiosity.
Yeah, that's true for so many things in life. And also because maybe you really did just misunderstand what comes out of that question when you say, I wonder how, or tell me more about this. You might really learn that you misunderstood something or get a better angle into why this behavior is happening. So I curiosity is so powerful and many things.
Ask for permission in the form of when would it be a good time, and think about the setting.
So I have learned that, you know, you can't just spring feedback on someone or it's not going to go well. And even if you have started with, connecting with them on a human level and small talk, if they didn't know that feedback was coming, it's going to catch them off guard. And so I try when I can to say I have some feedback when would be a good time to share. I have some critical feedback, but I want to make sure that I'm doing it at a time that works for you. If you can, and if you think about it, giving them some control over the situation or over the set and the setting anyway can go a long way. So that's the same of thinking about, is this happening at the beginning of the day and now they have to get through the whole day and now they have this critical piece of feedback in their head? How's that going to impact their ability to get through the day? So do you want to do this at the end of the day? Do you want to do this on a Friday? Just
Mhm.
giving them some control and thinking about the location. Are you coming to them in their office? Are they coming to your office? Email is horrible. It shouldn't. Hopefully, hopefully it's not an email. Hopefully it's in person. But really, just really be thoughtful about it. If it has to be email, then just be thoughtful about why.
I think that's great to bring the agency in. And I think if somebody asks you that question, to take the time to think through what would be your preferred mode. Because I could see somebody saying that and just being like, yeah, no, give it to me now. What is
Right.
it? Just tell me,
Yeah.
But really, it's important to, if you have that opportunity to exercise agency, really use it thoughtfully.
Yeah, I had some feedback and someone asked me when they could, when would be a good time, and just like slotted it into the middle of the day when it fit. And then I regretted it. I had the control. They asked me and I didn't put it at the end of the day where I could have had more time to reflect, and I will not do that again. So, as someone who has received feedback and also someone who has given it at not a great time and notice the results, this is an important step, I think. Malika, you have be specific about the problem and any suggestions.
So I think this is really should just be specific, because it could be about the problem or it could be about the praise if it's something positive. But specificity is really important if we want people to know what they're doing well or what they're not doing well. Like, and it's, I think it's harder to arrive at than you might think. And this is a part of like giving really thoughtful feedback. There's this really great podcast episode from a show called Women at Work, which I'll link. And they actually have several episodes about giving feedback and receiving feedback. But there's one that stood out to me that was called like We Deserve Better Than Atta Girl. And it was kind of focusing on how in in the workplace, there's a lot of data to kind of support the fact that women traditionally have not been given as not strong in performance, but as have not been given as clear feedback as men have in comparable roles. And that is kind of leads or contributing to the pay gap and also just the kind of leadership gap between men and women in workplaces, and that there can be a tendency to hear as a woman in a workplace like, oh, you're doing great, atta girl. And maybe I think this is this is changing. We're on a continuum, but there's, I think, some truth to that kind of vague, general, you're doing a good job. And that can feel good, but it is not actionable. And on the other side, where there's supervisor employee relationships where there feels like there's more trust or there's more affinity because they get each other, they're taking the supervisor might be taking more time to give more specific concrete feedback, whether it's critical or positive, but information that is going to help somebody get the promotion or move forward in the you know in their role. And so it's actually really important when you're giving feedback to make sure that it is something somebody knows what they can do with that information. It's not the same as just a check-in or, a thumbs up, that it's
Mhm.
important to be concrete about the actions and behaviors that need to be adjusted or that are or don't.
This is so important. And, I hadn't thought about it until you told me, but the idea of what it means to be a woman and getting or receiving feedback is it means something, it means
Mhm.
something. And this podcast that you listen to with this research about how people might be more delicate or conflict averse when it comes to giving feedback to a woman. I also think that women may avoid giving feedback also for some of the same
Mhm.
reasons because they don't want to seem like someone who is making things hard or they are conflict averse and so they don't want to give it. But feedback is needed to grow. You need to have it. You need to understand how to shift or change in order to do a better job. And so by not getting it, then you will not improve. All right. You won't improve. And that is, like you said, that has negative consequences for your career if that's your ambition. And sometimes, this is also true of when you're promoted to being a manager. If you had a job where maybe you were a teacher or you were producing a widget or you were doing a thing and now you are supervising others. That is a very different kind of job than the job you
Mhm.
had before. But because you were good at the job you had before, you were given this opportunity to do this new job, but you may not know how to do this new job actually. Just because you were good at the other job doesn't mean you're going to be good at this version of it. So feedback is critical to be successful. And so as women, we should demand it, we should be asking for it.
Yeah, this episode is great because it goes into detail, and I'll link the show 'cause again, they did several episodes, but they give advice about how to ask for it. If you're not getting feedback, how
Mm,
to ask for feedback or advice to get
mhm.
so that you aren't at a disadvantage. it might not be that you're not getting it relative to a male employee. It might be that the organization doesn't have a good mechanism for giving feedback or doesn't do performance reviews, or, there are a lot of
Right.
reasons why you
Yeah.
might feel like you just don't know how it's going.
Right.
And so how to kind of be able to take ownership over your own growth and ask the questions to get the information you need to understand how it's going. All right. Your next one, Azizi, is if you're a leader, sharing the feedback you received with those you supervise models a growth mindset.
This has to do with my most recent feedback season. I took the step of sharing out what the critical feedback, what the positive and negative feedback was for me, what the feedback was in terms of the areas that people wanted me to grow or shift my leadership. And I did this for feedback that came back that was just about the school in general, and also feedback that came back specifically about me. And it was such a hard step to take, and it was very vulnerable, but I was shocked by the response. People were really moved by that step, and I think it was a version of showing people that I heard them, going back to the listening part. And and I realized that this also models how to take feedback, because I need others to hear feedback as well. And so it demonstrated that if I'm the leader and I can do this, and this is the kind of organization that I want us to be a part of, an
Mm.
organization that's growing. Lifelong learning is something that's important to us. And so I highly encourage others, if you are in that leader capacity, whether you manage a team or, a school or organization, to find ways to share back what you've heard about the things that people want to shift or change. And it's hard. It's hard, but you can find themes, or you can find ways in to let people know that you've heard them. And Malika, I actually had the opportunity in my graduate school training when I did my educational leadership graduate work. One of the tasks I had to do, one of the projects, was following a head of school. And I followed this head of school. She was amazing. Her name is Lisa Darling. She worked at a huge school in Texas. And I had to follow her for a full day, maybe it was 2 days, and take notes of everything she did. And so I was in all of her meetings. I was in the
Wow.
parent meeting. She did the car line in the morning. I was watching her, and I had to take notes on it and then write a research paper on what I learned about leadership from her, from watching her. And one of the things I watched was her talk about a survey. And
Mm.
it was at her staff meeting, and she just put the numbers up, and she talked about, this is what people don't like, this is what people like. And it was so badass. And I was like, I remember asking her, like, how do you do that? She's like, this, people need to know. And even though I saw her do it, it's taken me this long. This was almost a decade ago. It's taken me this long to realize, like, oh, I should also do this, and for a variety of reasons, but I have her to thank for modeling that for me.
Mm.
And so it's something that I'm definitely going to do regularly. Now, the hard part about that, the vulnerable part about that, is that next year it better be different. Like,
You hope
I
so.
can't stand up and say the same thing over
Mm.
and over again. Like, hopefully, I am now going to put some things into place that's going to shift the perspective, or else, it's going to have the opposite effect. So it's a little risky, but I'm betting on that I'm going to be able to shift some things in the next year.
I love that.
All right, Malika. And your last one is to check in about communication styles and feedback preferences early.
So I think this is a good thing. And again, it's not appropriate for every feedback context, but if you are on a team, if you're supervising people that you're going to be interacting with, day in, day out, and that you're going to be giving them feedback at a certain point. I worked with a person who was basically like the editor of a academic research publication. And part of her job was editing, all of these articles from junior staff. And so the relationship was always that she was going to be editing what they were working on. This was like always giving feedback. So one of the things we worked on was like, okay, well, before somebody is giving you their writing, before you're in that workflow, kind of establishing, I'm going to be giving you a lot of feedback in this process. how do you like to receive feedback? Like, what are your
Mm,
preferences? Do is it helpful for you to have it in writing first? Do you like to talk through it? Like, having the conversation about it before it is even happening so that
mm,
you can get on the same page about what this person needs and how you can help them and
mm,
yourself be effective. And it's encouraging them, as we've mentioned, often we don't even think about what we need to hear feedback well. You were giving the example of putting it in the middle of the day, right? And just getting it over with. And then now, actually, I need time to think about this stuff and it can be
mhm,
distracting. So
mhm,
just giving people a prompt to think through those things ahead of time. We might not
mm,
get it right about ourselves because often we don't know what we need
mhm,
until
mhm,
it's missing. But
mhm,
just setting that precedent of like, I actually want to know what's going to be helpful for you because we're going to be in this a lot.
mm,
Um, that's, I think, a really powerful way to communicate care. And it kind of sets it up so that the person can adjust. If you've had a
mhm.
conversation already about your communication style and preferences, if something shifts or changes, there's a vocabulary in place to reassess or to talk about it again.
Yeah.
So I think that can be really powerful on both sides.
Yeah, man, I hope that people who are givers of feedback are taking all of this in. I think if you have someone who is in a position of giving you feedback who takes these steps, wow. You can really transform a culture and a community like that way. So that's a very powerful one. Yes, absolutely. See what you can understand from their preferences for sure. And it's good for us to, as people who receive feedback, to have that ready to go,
Yeah.
like to know that about yourself, to understand how you need those things, how you need the feedback given.
All right, Azizi, your last piece of advice is give yourself time to reflect before responding. The first response is often sadness followed by anger, and then give yourself a treat.
Yeah, so I have learned that when you share hard news with anyone, it could be a parent about their child, it could be a coworker about, their stinky tuna sandwich or something. I don't know. It could be anything. The first response is sometimes it's shock, sadness, and then the second day is anger. Usually, anger is one of those emotions that takes people a while to locate and or a little bit longer to locate. So you may not get the anger right in the moment. You might get it the next day. But so you need to give yourself even more time. Give yourself more than a day before responding so that you can have a little bit of distance. Your first response is going to be defensive, to talk about what they don't know and how dare they, and what do they know about this and that, and that's the first response because you feel hurt. But it's important to sit with that a little bit longer and push through, reflect on perfectionism and all these other things that we've been talking about, and then see, how you might respond and how you might take what you can to grow. But it emotions are powerful, and the first ones are often negative when it comes to feedback, and that's hard. So on the other side, give yourself a treat. And Malika, you told me this. I think I told you, like, I have this mountain of feedback that I have to read. I think I had feedback from like 4 different sources and it just all came together at once, and I was really dreading it. And you're like, do something nice, plan something nice for yourself. And I planned a massage after, and it was the best thing. It was the best thing I did. And now, even though it was hard to read, I have this association of this lovely time I had
Hmm.
after that felt really good. So whether it's like a nice meal or, new lipstick, whatever, plan a treat for after the feedback session.
Yes, I'm a firm believer in that because it is hard, and we've gotta if we're gonna keep doing this over and over again, we've gotta treat ourselves well so that we can come to it with curiosity and openness. Otherwise, you're just yeah, moving away from the perfectionist lens and also just, like, punishment lens or something, otherwise it's just
Mhm.
punishment, and we wanna tell
Mhm.
ourselves, "No, this isn't this is growth. I'm getting this
Mhm.
information. It's for the good." And
Mhm.
so back it up with treats.
Give yourself treats. Yeah, and I guess a bonus suggestion is don't think that don't take it personally, even when it's personal. Don't think that this means that you are flawed or there is something wrong with you. It's just about how to best support a community or how to best support an organization. It's about that context and it's important information so that you can understand how to support the people who, you work for or work with. So, keep that in mind as you are having your treat and not reacting angrily. Wow, those are some good tips, Malika.
Good tips. If you have other tips about feedback, giving it or receiving it, let us know. We put out a call. We didn't get any emails before on the front end.
I think it's hard. I
It
think it's
is
a hard
hard,
thing.
but
Yeah.
maybe this conversation has sparked something for you. So we want to hear about it. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about our peaks and valleys.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
And we are back with peaks and valleys, because in life, there are always peaks and always valleys. Azizi, this is an even episode, so you're up first with a peak.
Yeah. So, okay, I have two peaks. One quick one is shout out to Norm for setting up my microphone every time I'm here in East Hampton. He's Malika's husband's our AV guy, and we are so lucky to have him. So, shout out to Norm first. The
Thank
second
you.
peak is we spent time in Boston together. We spent a whole day and a half having a happier ladies retreat, eating delicious food, and getting to experience just a little bit of Boston while we were there. And what I loved about it, I mean, other than obviously our conversations, we were at the Boston Public Library, which is awesome, but it's the World Cup now. And there were men in kilts everywhere. And it was so whimsical and so delightful. It's just something you don't see every day. And we saw it for 2 days, just droves of dudes in kilts. And they were so happy, they're there supporting their team. And on Instagram, I'm getting all of these videos of people from other countries experiencing America for the first time and the things that are delighting them. And it's so heartwarming. So that is my peak is Boston, men in kilts, and visitors experiencing America.
Love it.
Yeah. What's your peak? What's your valley?
Well, I'm actually going to do a peak this week
Okay, do
too.
a peak. I'm here for that.
And my peak is to you for making this trip happen. You
Oh,
were in a different part of the country and you decided that you would come here instead of going to LA. We talked about it a while ago, but I think if you hadn't followed through, it could have just not happened. So I really appreciate you going through the effort and the expense to just come spend time with me in person and to be Rich Auntie Z and be with your nephews. It never feels like it's long enough, but
oh.
I really do appreciate you taking this chunk of time. So I'm giving you a peek for doing the things.
Thank you, Malika. I told you, when I was here for graduation, it was so quick and it felt like there were so many things I didn't get to do, like just hang out. And since I was already halfway here for a work thing, I was able to spit this in. But I'm so glad I did. Feels like a proper East Hampton summer.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, that brings us to the end. Azizi, let's leave on a happier thought. What are you going to try this week?
You know what I want to do? I want to write down some of the positive feedback that I received in my
Mm.
journal so that I can look at it
Mhm.
and, really take it in. So I'm going to reflect on the positive feedback. What about you, Malika?
I'm gonna peruse this podcast, Woman at Work. I used to be really connected to it. I haven't been in a long time, but I'm just reminded of the really great conversations they have there. So I want to
Yeah,
go
I've never
back
heard of it. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to look into that
s-
also.
with the Harvard Business Review.
So cool.
Thank you for listening to this episode. You can find our show notes in the episode description. If you like us, please rate, review, and tell a friend. And don't forget to follow us.
Send us a message at happierladies@gmail.com.
Our show was edited by Magnus Bjorgum, and our theme music was created by Wyatt Muncie.
You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Happier Ladies and at happierladies.substack.com. All right, Malika, have a happier week.
Have a happier week, Azizi. Bye.
Bye.
What is a blah, blah, blah.
Oh, God.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.